Francisco Macias Nguema, the man who will become the founder of the Nguema political dynasty and the first president of Equatorial Guinea, was born on 1st January 1924 in the village of Nzagayong near Mongomo in the mainland region of Rio Muni, the then part of Spanish Guinea, a colony of Spain. He belonged to the Fang ethnic group, the largest ethnic community in Equatorial Guinea, whose influence would later shaped the country's politics for decades. Macias was born into a period when Spanish colonial rules controlled nearly every aspect of life. Education, government employment, and political participation were tightly regulated by Spanish administrators. His family lived a modest rural life, relying mainly on farming and local trade. Different historical accounts describe his childhood differently, but many agree that he grew up in different circumstances that deeply influenced his view of power, authority, and colonialism. Unlike many Africans of his generation, Macias managed to receive formal primary education through the colonial system. After completing school, he entered the Spanish colonial service. He worked in several junior administrative positions and gradually earned promotions because of his ability to speak Spanish and his understanding of colonial administration. During the 1950s and early 1960s, he served in local government offices in Mongomo and later became a respected administrator in the Rio Muni region. As Africa experienced a wave of independence movements following the Second World War, pressure also mounted on Spain to grant independence to Spanish Guinea. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, nationalist movements demanded self-rule, while the United Nations repeatedly called on Spain to begin the process of decolonization. Recognizing the growing international pressure, Spain introduced a limited system of internal autonomy following a referendum held on 15th December 1963, where Spanish Guinea became a self-governing territory on 1st January 1964. Although local institutions were established, Spain still retained significant political authority through its High Commissioner. Macias' political career accelerated rapidly during this period. He became vice president of the autonomous government while working alongside the colonial administration, while increasingly presenting himself as a strong advocate for full independence. His speeches focused on ending colonial rule, restoring African dignity, and ensuring that Equatorial Guinea will govern itself without foreign interference. By 1967, Spain convened a constitutional conference in Madrid to draft a constitution for an independent Equatorial Guinea. Representatives from different ethnic groups and political organizations participated, including Francisco Macias Nguema. The conference debated whether the islands and mainland should remain united as one country or become separate states. Ultimately, a unified nation was chosen. On 11th August 1968, the proposed constitution was submitted to a national referendum where approximately 63% of voters approved the new constitution, establishing a democratic presidential republic with a national assembly and a Supreme Court. The referendum was supervised by the United Nations observers, marking a significant milestone towards independence. The country's first presidential election then followed in September 1968, with the race featured several leading nationalist figures, including Francisco Macias Nguema and the former Prime Minister Bonifacio Ondo Edu. After a competitive campaign, Macias won the runoff election held on 29 September 1968, becoming the president-elect of the soon-to-be independent nation. Finally, on 12 October 1968, officially granted independence to Equatorial Guinea, where during ceremonies in the capital, Malabo, the then known as Santa Isabel, the new national flag was raised, ending nearly 2 centuries of Spanish colonial rule. Francisco Macias Nguema was sworn in as the first president of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, making history as the country's founding head of state. At the time of independence, Equatorial Guinea was regarded as one of the more prosperous countries in sub-Saharan Africa because it possessed a thriving cocoa industry, relatively high literacy rates compared to many newly independent African states, functioning hospitals, schools, and administrative institutions inherited from the colonial era. However, beneath the celebrations lay growing political tensions, rivalries among political leaders, ethnic divisions, and disagreements over the country's future were already beginning to emerge. Within months of independence, these tensions will dramatically reshape Equatorial Guinea's history and establish the foundations of what will become the long-lasting political dominance of the Nguema family.